Hi, this is Fish, the only singing, talking and dancing fish in the world, on the phone to glorious sunny LA from Aruba, Scotland, and you're listening to Dave J on KCLA Radio.
Okay, so on the line now, I have great pleasure in talking to singer, songwriter, actor, raconteur, Fish. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Don't forget the gardener bit as well.
So you're just about to undertake a US tour in promotion of your latest album, 13th Star, and I just want to congratulate you on that because it's doing very well at the moment. All the reviews I've read are saying it's possibly your best solo album to date, so that must be very gratifying for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think having just turned 50 last month, it's pretty good to have something like that just as your recent album. I mean, it was released last year, and it's just been the reviews have been stunning. I was really proud of the reviews. I mean, my solo career has been really up and down since I left Marillion. I mean, I've had some great albums, and I've had some stuff that's not been particularly well received, but I've always kept on, stepping up to the plate and smacking them away. And this one seems to have gone as a home run, which is really cool. It was born in a particularly dark year, and it was definitely born in trauma. So I mean, to be able to take all that and move it on, and as I said, I mean, I think it's a good indication and a good sign for other musicians as well. I mean, there's so many times when you kind of go why the hell am I doing this? And maybe I should just give it up. And then to be able to pull one out of the can, like this, down the line, it just goes to show you that, I mean, it is a roller coaster. I mean, having a career in the music business, it's not a straightforward, straight line, ascent from entering into the business to stardom. You do take your ups and downs, and it's how you run them that I think defines you as an artist.
And with regard to your music, I was wondering, is there any particular point where you think, hey, I'm onto a winner here? Is it, the actual writing process? Or is it the recording process when you're actually in the studio? Or do you always think that what you're doing is your best work and then, once it's completed, you just hand it over to, I guess, the general public or the critics and, wait for their feedback?
Well, I think when you do, when you enter a new album, you're always full of positivism and, you're always full of hope, and you've got high expectations, and as you pointed out, you try and do the best you can, but I think it's determined by the team you've got around you. I mean, there's so many different factors that have all got to fall into place at the same time to really make a great album. I mean, I've had albums like Field of Crows, Fellini Days, Rainbows or Zippos, that have all, in the writing stages, we're going, this is brilliant. But when it moved through into the studio and it moved into into the control of the studio and into the production, I think if the production had been slightly slicker, if I'd brought in somebody like Callum Malcolm, who produced this new album, the 13th Star album. I mean, Callum's done the Blue Nile, he's done Nazareth, he's done Simple Minds, he's done a lot of acts, and he's got, as they say, great ears. And I think, I look at this and go, if I'd brought in something like that, then I think those albums might have made more impact. But on this album, I mean, there was Steve Vancis, my bass player, was writing with me for the first time. It was the first time he'd ever been involved in writing songs. So, he had an edge to him. He wanted to really prove himself and show everybody that he could write and show me that he could write. There was a lot of pressure on him to deliver because he offered these services when I was out on the 20th anniversary of the Misplaced Childhood album, which we called Return to Childhood. And I'd gone out on that tour, to try. I wanted to try and, I wouldn't say find myself. That's a little bit fairy-like, but I mean, I didn't feel I was ready to go into the studio, and I really wanted to just go out and spend some more time on the road and just, gather up some more experiences. And I think it was playing Misplaced Childhood, which was the big Marillion album in 1985. Yeah. I think that I was enjoying the drama of it. I was enjoying the dynamic, the light and shade of it. I was enjoying the kind of textures of the music. But of course, saying that 20 year on, it was I had a kind of different approach to it. My voice was different. Also I've been working as an actor, so, a lot of that stuff that I've done in film, you kind of bring onto the stage. And, singing an album like that, I mean, it is such a dramatic album. It was more like a theatre piece than anything else. Yeah. And it was that, I think, that gave us the start point in as far as the kind of overall colour and shape of the album. I think that was what gave us the kick-off into the writing of 13 Star. But 13 Star was defined by a relationship that I was in, that I'd come out of and then went back into again in 2007. You know, there was a lot of very high emotion about it, and on the first week of recording, way back in late May last year, you know, I was supposed to be getting married, and I was supposed to get married in August. And 10 weeks before the actual wedding, 2 days after the invitations were sent out, my then fiancée just turned around to me and said, "I'm not getting married, I'm leaving," and I've never seen her since. And so you can imagine the kind of, I mean, that was like being torpedoed, and you know, when you really didn't expect it. So I mean, you know, going into the recording project, as I said, that happening on the first week of the album, it was. It definitely, it caused some problems with me, you know. And of course, because my house is my studio, I mean, you know, you move the furniture. I mean, it was a full commercial recording studio, which was kind of closed down to the kind of general public in 1988. And I started to live here, but I've still retained the studio. So when we were actually recording it, I'm actually singing it, and that they were all working in exactly the same environment as the relationship was kind of born and was destroyed in. So, you know, again, there's a lot of very powerful emotions about the guide of the album. And as I said, Steve Vance's position as like a new writer, Carla Malcolm coming in and working with me as a full producer, for the first time, and having a really great band around me, which happened to be the band as well that's going to be on the tour when we come in to play at LA in a couple of weeks.
Right, so that sounds like a very intense period you were going through right then. Did you ever stop and think, maybe I should hold off for a while, it's not the best time to record? Or do you think it actually helped in you know, the creative process and the emotions that you put into the record?
I didn't have the time, right? Because what I was in, I mean, you know, I decided I'd structured the writing and the recording of this album around a far more kind of disciplined time frame than I'd ever done before. I mean, having your own studio can make you, you know, it can lead you into, as I've done in previous albums, where you go, yeah, it's a studio, it's not really costing us anything. Well, and then you get everybody together and you kind of write and record simultaneously. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is not a particularly good idea. And sometimes you can get lost and you can get sidetracked by certain things that happen around you and things, and, you know, days become weeks, become months. And this project, it was like, okay, we're going to write between January and the end of April, right? In May, we've got 2 weeks for the band coming together, tidying up, and then we've got the producer coming in for 6 weeks, and that's it, bang. So once I declared that was the framework of how we were going to make the album, nothing could really get in its way. I mean, there was no point. I mean, even though, you know, the relationship collapsed or exploded, you know, on the first week of recording, I mean, if I turned around and walked away and taking some time out of myself, then I would have lost the producer. Right. If I'd lost the producer, I would have lost the recording time. With that, I was going to be losing the touring pattern that I'd set up in the summer and through into September. So there was no choice. I had no choice but to carry on. And I'm glad I did, because it made me concentrate on what I was supposed to be doing. It made me concentrate on the album rather than concentrating on kind of heartbreak or shit or whatever you want to call it, you know?
Well, I guess despite what you were going through emotionally at the time while you were recording it, it seems to have paid off on a creative level, because it's probably one of your most successful solo albums to date. So all in all, it must have been a pretty bittersweet experience when you look back at it.
It's yin and yang to the extreme. I mean, absolutely to the extreme, you know. And it's, you know, I find it incredibly ironic that my ex-fiancée, it's like extremely soon after we split, she met some guy who she's now pregnant to and engaged. So she's got the baby and she's got the marriage that she was wanting, and I got a great album out of it. I'll take that. Thank you. I think, as I said, you know, taking an album like that, I mean, I think at the end result, I mean, the marriage was doomed. You know, it was a relationship that was doomed from the start. I mean, we were not meant for, you know, it wasn't meant to be. And it's like, I'd rather have taken the album than taking the divorce in 6 months, you know what I mean?
So having come through that, it seems like everything's going pretty well for you right now. And as I said at the beginning, you're just about to embark on a US tour, which is the first time in quite a while.
You know, I've wanted to come back, but I've never had the circumstances that made sense. And obviously, you know, to commit to an American tour, it's a huge financial commitment, and it's a big risk. I mean, if something goes wrong out there, it goes horribly wrong, you know? Yeah. And it's you can very quickly find yourself in a major hole. So, you know, the planning and setup of this entire tour has been as meticulous as it could possibly be. But even on that, I mean, you know, I'm coming out to the States, and, you know, with all the cost of visas and the bureaucracy that surrounds all the hoops that you've got to jump through to get to the point where you're even getting on a plane, they're immense. I mean, you know, personally, I mean, I'm earning nothing off this tour whatsoever. And we're completely dependent on selling merchandise and selling the back catalogue that we're carrying with us on the tour. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's very much guerrilla warfare when we come out. I mean, we've got no record company support. I mean, we're out there on our own doing this, you know. It's exciting, and our production manager, Yata, has done an incredible job in the last 2-3 months, just preparing the ground and setting this up. I mean, what's gone on into this 3-week, 4-week American tour, right? Mm-hmm. Is basically the amount of energy and the amount of head work that's gone into it. It's what you normally expect to put into a 9-month European tour. I mean, it's been that intense.
Right, I was going to say in relation to that, you're pretty much self-financed these days. You don't have a large record label behind you to subsidise you or give you advances. So how much of a risky undertaking is it to have to organise this tour yourself? And
yeah, I mean, it's something I wanted to do. I mean, as I said, I mean, you know, it's not guided by, you know, a money-making force, you know. It's something I want to do. It's like, you know, I've got a chance, you know, I've got the Nearfest guys out on the East Coast offering me a festival, and it involved, you know, we were getting a festival wage for this, right? Yeah. And that basically underwrote the tour, and I turned around to my agent, Larry Webman, who's a great wee guy at Paradigm Agency. And I said to him, look, well, we're coming out to do this one gig. I said, what about asking about it and just see if we could maybe put some other gigs around it? And he phoned me back in about 2 weeks, and he said, look, you know, we've got these offers in, and we've got offers from LA. I mean, the interest was incredible, and I just went, well, if it all makes financial sense, you know, if the offers are there and the guarantees are there, then let's go for it, let's have a crack at it. So it's bang. So, I mean, it's a bit like, I'm going out there, it's going to be an adventure for me again, you know, I mean, as I said, I mean, if we can break something out, I mean, 13 Star is you know, and I think, and a lot of other people think it's the best album I've ever made. And I think, you know, I think it could be in tune with America this time. I think it's the first album I've had for a long time that I think could actually, it could maybe create a ripple across there. And if, you know, if that ripple becomes a wave, then I'm ready for it, you know. But, you know, it ain't going to happen if you don't try. You know, at a point in sitting there going, well, we might get something going in America. You won't get anything going in America unless you come out and just test the water. And this is what I'm doing. I'm coming out to test the water with this tour and see what's going. And if it works, hey, I've got 10 albums or so behind me that you know, if one works, then it'll lead. And hey, why not? I mean, the great thing about America is it's not as ageist as especially the UK, who are obsessed with like kind of 90-year-old bands. I mean, there's still a huge space in America for what you might call classic rock. Mm-hmm. So, you know, why not have a crack at it? And like I said, I mean, you know, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to meet a lot of people I've not seen for a long time. I've met a lot of fans that, you know, haven't been able to afford to come across to UK to see us, right, or coming to Europe to see us. So, hey, let's go across and have fun. It'd be for a couple of my guys. It's the first time they've ever been to the States, so it's going to be fun all round.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, you're going to be making a lot of your fans very happy, obviously, because it'll be first time that they've had the chance to see you in a long, long time. And I guess for a lot of people, they wouldn't have had the chance to see you live at all.
Well, the internet's been an amazing thing. I mean, the internet's changed a lot for a lot of bands, including, you know, my old band Marillion and myself. You know, I mean, it's interesting to see that, you know, since we started talking about an American tour, we were getting the figures through for the website, and we found out of across the website as a whole, internationally, the number of new hits were then on the website. The number of new people that come in and visit the website had gone up by something like 57% in the last month. That's a phenomenal figure. And in America, there was an increase of traffic of something like 73%. And this is the thing, I mean, when I used to go tour in the 80s, and, you know, American fans would discover it if they got like an import copy of Kerrang or something like that, or Sounds magazine or something, you know. Whereas now they can go on the website, you know, you can either go through to www.thecompany.com with a hyphen between that and company, or you can go up to, if you type in 13star.com, which is 13, the number is 13star.com, and you can hear sound clips, you can find out what the tour is, you can see reviews, you can see photographs, you can get opinions and blogs, and suddenly you're a lot closer than you ever used to be, you know, way back in the 80s, and I think that's made it an exciting forum as well. And, you know, I mean, Marillion were always a kind of cult band across in America, and a lot of people are tapping back into us again and just, they're definitely rediscovering me for a kickoff. I know that for a fact, you know. And as I said, I mean, I don't think 30 Styles is going to disappoint anybody that's into kind of like, you know, the genre of progressive rock or whatever. And there's a lot of other people out there that'll get into it as well.
And I guess everything is, you know, much more spontaneous these days, but with the internet, whereas previously, you know, you'd have to wait a week to read a review of the gig in the music paper, by which time you've already missed the gig, or, you know, it could be a while before you play there again.
That's it. And as I said as well, I mean, you know, I'm carrying, you know, stock of my entire back catalogue over there. I mean, you know, a lot of my catalogue's not been available in the States for a long, long time. I mean, the last bona fide release I had there was the Sunsets and Empire album that came through Viceroy, which was the last time we came back in what was it, 1998, right? And that was a play, because I mean, it was great. We came across, we're a Viceroy, and like, we sold about 20,000 albums or something, made principally on the East Coast. The company went bankrupt, and it's like, bam, and it's like, it was like, oh. So I'm hoping it's a little like that. I don't think it'll be like that. I've got Koch behind me now. Most of that, the Bullabee the best of, the Ton of Children albums have been released on Koch in the late summer. As I said, if this tour works, then, you know, there is a likelihood that we could be coming back and doing something that's a bit more extravagant.
Oh, that sounds great. What I'd like to do now is take you back to when you were a teenager growing up in Scotland. Was it always your ambition to be a musician or a singer, or was it just something you did as a hobby, and as you started, you know, having more success, you started taking it more seriously?
Well, no, I mean, I think being a singer was a fantasy. I think, you know, there was much chance of becoming a singer as an actor. I mean, they were both kind of like fantasy jobs, but I mean, I didn't actually start singing until 1981. That was when I did my first ever gig. You know, it was 1980. I did my first ever gig. And then I joined Marillion on January 81, and then I just moved on it. But I committed to going down to London, and I kind of thrown everything in where, you know, okay, here I go, I'm going down to London, I've got nothing else to do. So like, I kind of threw all my eggs into the one basket and went for it.
And the impression I get was that you were pretty much the driving force there, you know, getting the bookings, finding a manager, and, you know, getting press coverage for the band.
Well, as I said, I mean, I was very driven because, you know, Steve Rotherley and Steve had come down from Whitby, and I'd come down from Edinburgh. And, you know, we were throwing everything in. We weren't interested in being part-time musicians. I mean, this wasn't like get a job in a bank and, like, work at weekends. This was like we want to be ultimately professional musicians and make albums and make a living out of it. So, you know, and I happened to be kind of good at that kind of stuff. You know, I'm good at organising. I'm very good at kind of taking control and you know, organising people. So therefore, you know, I kind of stepped naturally into that role, and it worked very well. And
when you think back to that period, do you think that it's easier or more difficult for bands who are just starting off these days?
Horrendous. I would hate to be in a band starting off now.
But I guess the advantages these days are that you do have the internet to spread the word.
So what do we have on the site on the internet? But how do you get people to come to that site, you know? I mean, this is the problem. You still have to promote, whether you're promoting on the internet or promoting through, you know, standardized media. You've still got to promote. You've still got to make people aware of what you're doing. They won't just stumble on you, you know. It's, you know, people have got to start talking about things and start following you to gather interest, so people go up to your website and check you out, you know. And there are so many bands of it. And the problem is, I think the technology is so readily available. It's so easy to make an album these days. There's a lot of crap being produced. There's a lot of very bad albums. We've moved into an MP3 culture where people are writing tracks. They're not writing albums. You know, if they get two great tracks together, then they'll bundle an album around it and sell it as an album, you know? And I think that's been, you know, I mean, I work as a DJ on Planet Rock, and, you know, I hear a lot of different albums. And when I was working before as a DJ on Station PM, I used to get given new albums. And you get the first two tracks that are produced by Bill Leckie or somebody like that. And then the rest of the tracks are all produced by some entity. And the difference in sound quality and overall quality of the first two tracks and the other 8 is immense. And, you know, you're buying an album, and I think that's why we've kind of moved into that MP3 generation, because people have been buying albums. They go, wait a minute, these other 8 tracks are crap, you know? All I want is those 2. I don't want the other 8. I don't want to spend 10, 12 pounds on an album. I just want the 2 tracks. And, you know, it's obviously, you know, I don't work like that. When I go to write an album, I go to write an album. You know, I don't go to write 2 singles and then hinge everything around it. I go to write an album, and if there happens to be a couple of, you know, outstanding radio tracks, and they went, wow, it's a bonus, but I go to write an album, and every track has got to be up there in high quality control mode, you know?
Well, I guess one of the disadvantages is that it's not like the past where you know, used to get bands who would go out and tour and, do lots of gigging to improve their musicianship and hone their skills in front of an audience. A lot of times these days, bands or solo artists will record something in a PC in their bedroom and expect instant success from it without actually having never played in front of an audience and getting feedback from it.
It's too easy to record in the bedroom now. It's too easy to draw something on a computer, and then, and it's like you bring out first an album full of pizzazz and, full of zing and energy. And like they go on the stage and they don't know how to work the stage. The front men don't know how to do audiences. They don't know how to talk to an audience. They've got no idea of presence, etc., etc. And whereas, in the old days, you had to save your money up to get there to make a demo, and then you had to continue working and work that demo until you could get to an album kind of situation, and that involved at that time a lot of gigging. And it's kind of changed a bit now. It's a lot easier for people to. There's a lot of dependency on technology, but that's their thing. Hey, I do my thing. I'm interested in what I do. I don't really I don't chart myself against other bands or anything like that. If I do it, I do it to the best of my ability. Then great, and I go out and I do my live shows and I promote my live shows as I'm doing here, and it's cool. And I like it. I just want to be able to make music for the next 10 years or so.
When you look back at that time when you were with Marillion and you had some success, do you think things were too intense when you have a record label behind you and you have to go in, record your album, promote it, and then tour it, and then, start over again?
I mean, I'm doing just as many gigs as I was doing when I was back in the Marillion days. I don't do it with a frequency. It's not like 4 or 5 shows on, then 1 day off. It's 3 shows on, 1 day off, 3 shows on, 1 day off. But I'm still touring. I'm touring just as much as I was doing with Marillion in the early days. I'm not playing anywhere near the same size of venues, obviously. But it's, apart from in the States, the same size of venues I was just playing in the 80s with Marillion. But it's different. But yeah, I make a living out of this. I'm not, like I said, I don't have a 9-to-5 job and go out and kid on at weekends. I do this for real.
Yeah. And of course last year you made many of your fans' dreams come true when you got back with Marillion to play Market Square Heroes in Aylesbury Town Square. What did that feel like, and was it a difficult thing to organise? 5 guys who got together were really old friends that had come on at the world stage as Blue-Eyed Boys, and we've gone out and did what we did and we split up. And I think it put to bed a lot of the rumours that, we're kind of sworn mortal enemies. We actually got on really well. Mark Kelly's still one of my best friends. And, Ian and I get on great. We're still in relatively close contact considering we're about 500 miles removed from each other. Yeah. But, it was one song in the Market Square in Aylesbury where we first started, a song that was written about the Market Square Heroes, So it was, and it was really cool. It was a really nice thing to do, and I think we were both amazed at just how much publicity and how much interest it actually generated. It was one of the most hit articles on the BBC World website. First gets back with Marillion and said, no, it didn't. It's only a song. Right. But I think emotionally it meant a lot to a lot of people just to see you back on stage together again after so long.
Yeah, I think so. Considering it was no rehearsal, we basically, we hadn't actually stood in a room and rehearsed at all. We just went on the stage and went for it. And it was cool. There was no pressure on us. There was no pre-advertising. Nobody knew we were going to do it apart from a few close friends. And it was cool,
Yeah, and so what was it like after those years with Marillion when you had to go into studio and record your first solo album? So, you were used to having a band around you, and now it was all down to you. Was it a daunting experience?
It was scary and it was exciting, It's a very different thing being solo and being in a band. When things go wrong, there's no shoulders to cry on,
Yeah.
And, the same thing when things go right. It's, sometimes the celebrations can be slightly lonely, But it's something I've come to enjoy. I enjoy the control. I'm not a control freak, but I enjoy the control of it. Sometimes I've made decisions that have been detrimental to my career. Sometimes I've made decisions that have been impetuous and where I followed my heart and not listened to my head enough, And, but hey, I've had some really good times. As I said, I would never have got to some of the places that I've been if I'd been in Marillion. I've been in Bosnia, I've been in Kosovo, doing gigs with the army and stuff. And, I've been in a lot of different countries playing gigs where, Marillion as a machine could never have afforded to go to. I mean, the very fact that even Marillion as a unit now are finding it extremely difficult to come out to play America, and I'm able to come out with my little guerrilla unit. I think it's a sign of like where I'm at.
Uh-huh. Now, one of my favourite tracks with your vocals on, apart from the early Marillion albums and your solo albums, was a track you recorded with Tony Banks from Genesis called Murder of a Day. Because in a way it's like a Genesis or a Marillion track in that it's quite lengthy and it tells a story. What was that like to record?
I was interested, yeah. It was cool working with Tony. It was really funny. He sent me up this track. He says, I'd like you to do the lyric on this. He says, you're the only person I know that could write a lyric for a 9-minute song and make it work.
Oh, that's cool. You must have been pleased about that.
Yeah, so it was cool. I mean, Tony's a really nice guy. I mean, I'm in a great position. I'm 50-year-old now, right? And I came in the generation that was listening to it, and it's been brilliant. I mean, I've actually performed with nearly all of the people that I was kind of fans of, right?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I mean, I've worked with Steve Howe on Time and a Word that we did on one of the solo compilations he did on the Songs for the Mirror album. I've worked with Phil Collins on stage at Wembley when we did the Nelson Mandela gig. I've sung with Mike Rutherford charity record. I've worked with Rick Wakeman, did some bits and pieces. Just the other week there, I was singing with Ian Anderson on stage in Edinburgh. So it's just been pretty cool. It's been a nice thought. I mean, when Steve Howe came up to work here, it was really bizarre. Because I was sitting there and I'm listening to Steve kind of limbering up, and he's playing some of the licks from Topographic Oceans, right? And I'm going, I would never have believed that, I was sitting in the studio going, Jesus, I'm sitting here, and if the 17-year-old, right, had been here now, the 17-year-old would never have believed I would have been sitting there, as a kind of known singer that's made albums in my own studio, just about to do Time and a Word with Steve. It was. I've still got my feet very much on the ground when it comes into that.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, having recorded with Tony, was there ever any possibility that you might have joined Genesis after Phil Collins left?
There was talk. Tony suggested me, but it was Tony put my name forward to the hat, but I don't think it would have been right. I mean, I think it would have been a very bad influence amongst the band. I mean, Paul Young was put up for it. There was a lot of different people put up, but what they elected to do was to go for somebody that nobody knew. It didn't have any associations with either Mike Rutherford's camp or Tony Banks' camp. Mike really liked me, but Mike had his own thing. He had his own choices. So they decided, okay, let's compromise, go for something that nobody knew. So they got Ray Wilson in, and that was it. Bang. I was doing nothing. No, Ray's a good singer, and he's doing his own thing. But I think, I don't think he was the right guy for Genesis. I mean, I think that they needed somebody with a lot more presence and a lot more kind of dynamic. I'm not deriding Ray on that, by the way. It was interesting, and I read one of the names which I thought would have been really interesting, and it's Roger Chapman from Family. That's a really interesting name. The thing is, Phil's a great singer. I saw the tour last year. I went down to Twickenham to see them last year, and they were great. And it's I met up with Phil as well, kind of like previously. And, we were kind of talking about, because he wasn't even sure whether he was going to go back on the road again. I was surprised to see him, but I was really glad to see him playing drums, because, he is such a phenomenal drummer. He's such a phenomenal drummer.
Yeah.
And I loved the gig. It was a bit quiet, because I hate all these DB cut-off points now that they've got gigs for that. It's just a bit too quiet and a bit too polite for me. But it's the government that looks after us. Make sure that we don't damage our pretty little ears. So I don't think I'd work in Genesis. I think maybe with some of the older stuff it might be fun. But I think I like the freedom of doing my own show. I don't like working with computerized productions where you've got to be at this spot on the stage at this point, and at this point you've got to hit this light chord, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And it's like, for example, when people see me when I come to play LA, right? it's, you know, I'll do 5 minutes stand up, you know,
Yeah.
and just have a bit of laugh. And I like the free form of doing what we do, you know. I like it. I mean, when it comes down to it, we're going to entertain people, and I'm very aware. You know, when I come out, there's a lot of people want to hear and want to hear a lot of different stuff. I mean, the set list kind of moves between, you know, there's obviously, you know, a fair chunk of 13 Star in there because it is a new album. That is where we're at as a unit at this moment in time. But, you know, we're playing a lot of the Clutching at Straws material, stuff like White Russians, Flange Navarre, you know, we're getting Communicado, Last Straw in there. And, you know, because we were playing, because it was the 20th anniversary last year of Clutching at Straws. So we took, you know, we mixed the material. So, you know, when people come along, you know, you aim to entertain. You want to send them out smiling and go like, fuck, that was a nice night, man, you know.
Now, one thing is that you've always had very loyal fans throughout your career, and I know you like to keep in touch via your website. You write regular blogs and emails, and in fact on this North American tour, before each gig you're having a meet and greet. So before your LA gig at the House of Blues, I know you're meeting with your fans at the Red Rock Bar at 8782 Sunset Boulevard. Just how important is it for you to keep in close contact with your fans?
I'm not Sting, and I'm not Bono, and I'm not kind of Paul McCartney or whatever, you know. And it's like, you know, I remember in 1985 when Keely hit, when we had the big single, it was like, one of the things that I hated about it was the distance that started to happen between ourselves and some of the really older fans as well, you know. And we were just physically unable to, like, you know, get close to them. I mean, it was, you know, we were playing big gigs, we were surrounded by, you know, you're always meeting people that you didn't particularly want to meet. But professionally, there were people you had to shake their hands off. And the way it worked was, you know, I started to hate the alienation that occurred. I mean, you know, Waters, you know, talked about it in The Wall.
Yeah.
And it kind of, in some senses, it became very much like that. And I felt there was a wall going around this. And I wasn't enjoying the gigs, and I wasn't enjoying the lifestyle and all the rest of it, which was part of the reason I left. You know, the machine became too big, and you know, these meet and greets, I'm able to do them, so why not? You know, what am I going to do? I mean, there's people who've been waiting to see us for 10 years or so, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've been buying the albums, I've been buying the T-shirts and stuff, and all the other articles through the website, keeping me alive. So at least you can pop in and go, hey, hi, how you doing? I've just got to make sure I don't have too many beers. It's like, the singer is unable to take the stage today because I'm blatantly trying to get a meet and greet earlier on in the afternoon, you know? And of course, everybody wants to have a pint with me. It's like, you know, because I could quite easily come back from the US a raging alcoholic. The meet and greets are done me in.
Yeah, can't remember the gigs, but the meet and greets were great.
Yeah, the gigs are easy. The meet and greets are totally harder. I mean, I like to think, I don't kick about with rock stars, you know. I mean, living up in Scotland, I mean, I live 30 miles to the south of Edinburgh. And it's cool when the guys come up, you know, and I've got my friends of mine come up and tour, and you go in and see them, and it's like, you know, hey, it's like when the Towel came in, it was like, seeing Ian and the boys and stuff, and it's like, you know, hi, how you doing? It's going to be really cool. But I mean, up here, I mean, I only play, you know, I'm kind of known up here, but, you know, I like soccer, I like football. My football club's a Birmingham Football Club in Edinburgh. And I go into Hibs and stuff, I go to see them, you'd be walking through the crowd, go, hi big man, how you doing? Still singing. You've got no idea that I'm still making albums, you know. It's quite comical. You know? Well, you're from the Northeast as well, it's like, I always remember the old days back in the 70s when soccer was a man's game. You know, it was like American football without the helmets. It's great, I love it, you know. Of course, the European Championships are going to be on when I'm over, so at least I'll have something to watch at night on the TV.
And so, what's in the pipeline for you now? Because I know you've done some acting in the past. Are you planning on doing any more of that soon?
The plan is, I come back from the States, I've got some festivals in Europe, Switzerland, the UK, Germany, and then with September, we're supposed to be going down to South America. And we're doing like Brazil, Peru, Chile, Argentina, Venezuela, I think, as well. And then we come back from there, then we go into Europe again, and we go France, Italy, Malta, and then we go across to Greece, Bulgaria, we play some Eastern Bloc countries, back into Germany, Belgium. And I've got a UK tour in November, and then December, that's it. That's kind of shut down, depending on what happens. I mean, if something happens in America, then we'll follow that flame, you know. And then it's quite Lucy's coming back in the early part of next year. I'm putting, a new back catalogue release together, etc., etc. But on other stuff, next year I really want to get back into the acting. My acting's been left on, it's been left in the back burner for damn near 3 years now. And the last thing I did was The Jacket, where it was Adrian Brody and Chris Christopherson, and Jennifer Jason Lee and stuff. But Chris Christopherson, I just went, that's the perfect life. Chris comes across and he's working on a movie in Scotland. And while he's over here, he does gigs in Edinburgh, gigs in Belfast, gigs in Glasgow. And I just went, that's the perfect life. It'd be great to be able to do something like that where you can mesh, movie work and your performance stuff together. It'd be amazing. The other thing I've got to do is I've been offered a book deal as well, and I've got to get that together, which is it's an autobiography that's kind of sewn together with a big long trip that I did to Vietnam on my own at the beginning of this year. Right. And it's kind of like a Scottish Heart of Darkness, if you know what I mean. Right. So it was just when I went down there on my own, I kind of spent some time with myself for the first time in my life, which was cool. And I've been offered a book deal, so I'm going to be doing 3 months work on that. But if I can do that and get some movie stuff together next year, and look at, once I feel that I'm ready to make an album, I'll go in and make the next album.
Yeah, well, hopefully it won't be so long before you come back and visit the States next time.
No, what I'd love to think is if this tour happens and we get a bit of a buzz going on 13 Star, and we start picking up some radio play and get some interest, and I'd love to come back and do 2 months across there if we can make it work. But I've got to get, I've got to be sure. I can't afford to do speculative touring. When you think I could be 2 months working on a book or 2 months working on a movie, I'd rather do that than go on a tour bus. It'd be, if I won the lottery tomorrow, then it'd be great. I could just turn around and go, yeah, we're going to go across America. We're going to go gig every 3 days and just journey across America playing gigs. I'd love to do that. But my situation, you've got to be careful. You've got to be kind of relatively shrewd with the way you deal with your time and your energies.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you, Fish. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 10th of June in LA at the House of Blues, and hopefully get to speak to you at the meet and greet before then, which is at Red Rock.
That'd be really cool. It'd be really cool.
8782 Sunset Boulevard for any other fans that might want to meet you before the gig.
Thanks for supporting the show, it's great, it's nice to know you've got friends out there,
Good luck with the album, wish you every success, and have a great tour.
See you, bye.